Okay, how to get sponsored as a runner, how to approach sponsors. I'm going to give you, as quickly as I possibly can, I'm going to give you the steps that you need to take in order to give yourself the best possible chance of turning what you love into a profession, into a full-time living. Now, the reason I wanted to turn what I loved, running, when I got back into running age 27, the reason I wanted to turn it into a full-time gig was because I saw that I needed to be absolutely all in to become the best possible runner I could, to get as fast as I possibly could, and I needed to pick a niche within running, and that niche was ultra running on the road, and I needed to get as good as I possibly could. And the only way I could get as good as I possibly could if somebody was paying me to run. So the way that I did it was I saved up money, which I felt would last me for at least 12 months. It probably would have lasted me for 2 or 3 years. I saved up a bunch of money, and then I wanted to get as fast as I possibly could, gain the best possible times, win lots of races, and then sponsors would notice me. And in the meantime, I was approaching sponsors and saying, this is where I am. This is my potential, this is what I did in the past, this is my sporting background, this is my story, and this is what I want to do in the future. These are my goals. I want to become British champion, I want to do this, etc., etc. To paint the kind of picture. It's even easier than that now, because you've got access to TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, etc., etc. It's so much easier. Your angle might be that you're a new mom who has used running to get back in shape or to return to her former shape. And you're going to hit millions of people. You're going to appeal to millions of people just by having that angle. And this is obviously the influencer model that a lot of people are following, and it's working for them. And there's a lot of purists in the running world that are going to be really angry about that are really angry about that. But guess what? It's business. So if this person is hitting more people, appealing to more people, more likable, whatever, that's going to be more interesting for businesses than somebody who's running, for instance, 14 minutes for 5K. Super fast, but not very good in front of a camera, or not able to tell their story, or whatever, yeah? So you've got to look at it from a business point of view. And the way you look at it from a business point of view is, I'm going to use my recruitment experience for this, is you approach businesses, you approach these companies that you would want to sponsor you in the way that you would if you were looking for a job. So basically, in a nutshell, here's what I'm all about, here's my journey, here's what I'm trying to do, here's what I've done so far, here's what I'm good at, here's what I'm bad at, and here's what I think I can add value to your company, and what would be the return on investment for you. And you can kind of analyze that easier than ever now in terms of, okay, what platform have you got? Okay, Instagram, how many followers, etc., etc. What are you going to be, what is going to be your target market, and what are you going to focus on? And then what could be the return on investment for a company? It's as simple as that, but you want to put together a great portfolio, and you want to become a storyteller. So you want to be able to say, okay, so my story back then is, okay, I was crazy about sport when I was a kid. I was massively into track and field in the summer, massively into cricket in the summer, massively into football and cross country in the winter. And that's all I lived for, and many other sports. And then I chose football, didn't work out. I got into a career. I spent X amount of years as a recruiter in an office. Then I took a sabbatical, went cyclotouring in Asia, found that I loved, I completely forgot how much I loved just getting up in the morning and cycling as far as I possibly could, finding somewhere to sleep and doing exactly the same day after day after day. And then I got back into running, used some of that cycle fitness, was absolutely awful to begin with, so the progression curve was super steep. But then I realized this is what I really love doing, and I really love running, and I want to turn this back into a profession. And the way that I'm going to become the best possible runner is to be able to do this full time, so I can completely look after my recovery. I don't have to worry about a full-time job. I can completely look after my diet and eat the right foods, and I can look after all the other aspects of running that we don't think about so much, like the strength training, the yoga, the mobility, all that stuff, in addition to high quality training, high quality recovery, in order to be the best possible athlete. And I'm going to document that journey. And it wasn't as simple for me back then, because it was just Twitter and, you know, what can you actually tweet or put out in a tweet, etc. But what I had seen was for sports nutrition brands, they were sponsoring bodybuilders, and they were hitting people with protein products, etc. And they were paying bodybuilders and fitness models incredible amounts of money to tweet 4 times a week. And for me, that was a joke. I thought it was crazy, because I felt that we should be, and I'm a purist when it comes to running, I thought we should be sponsoring Olympic athletes and getting them as far as possible. Business doesn't work like that. So what you want to do, in short, is you want to put a strong portfolio together. Where have you been? Where are you now? What are your targets for the future? My targets were super ambitious. I wanted to be British champion. I wanted to run a really quick time for 100K. I wanted to win some of the biggest races in the world, and I wanted to set the world record, and I wanted to win the world championships. And so that level of ambition, and what you then get from sponsors is, well, how are you in front of the camera? Can you do this? Can you do that? And if you are willing to give that piece of yourself away and kind of give people an insight into your life, which is, it's imperative these days. You have to be able to do that. If you're saying, okay, I've run, 13 minutes for 5K, I'm a super fast runner, and you should sponsor me, brands are obviously going to say, well, how can we kind of market you? Yeah, it's great if you're winning the Olympics or you're winning the World Championship. There's a use to that, and those athletes are paid. But unless you're at that level, if you're falling short, then you're absolutely nowhere. It's the same in most sports. It's the same in tennis, same in Formula One. It's the same in snooker. It's the same in football. If you think about the percentage of people that actually get paid a lot of money to play football, it's very low. But that's the most spectator-friendly sport in the world. So think about how spectator-friendly running is and how marketable you possibly could be. It's not that interesting to watch a marathon, and I love running. It's not that interesting. So how can you market yourself? So put together a portfolio, put together your platforms that you're on, and be there on social media, to have presence on social media, and get good at telling your story. And then what you want to do is, once you've got that portfolio together, put together a good email, and it's bespoke to each individual company that you want to represent. So it's in line with their values. Then you approach people, and you don't just send them an email. You send them an email and you follow up. Who's the person to speak to? And you get that person on the phone. If you're the type of person who's scared to speak on the phone, you're probably the type of person who's scared to be on camera, or who's not going to be a good brand ambassador for them. So pick up the phone and build relationships with these people. Super important that you get them. It's not just kind of an Instagram DM that you could do lying on the sofa. It can't work like that. It's exactly the same as finding a job. If you really want it, you've got to be willing to get on the phone, and you've got to be willing to meet people face to face. If I was looking for a job in this location, or if in Chiang Mai right now, I wouldn't just be emailing my CV to people, because everybody else is doing that. I'd be going knocking on businesses' doors and saying, hey, I sent you my CV, but I guess you get a lot of CVs. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to present myself here. Here's my business card. This is what I'm all about. This is what I've done so far. Here's how I could be useful to you. How valuable is that to you? And that's essentially what you're saying to companies. It's no more difficult than that. And then it becomes a numbers game, because the more that you do that, the more that you call these companies, because they're obviously dotted around the world, the more that you call these companies, the more that you build a relationship, the more things that are going to drop on your lap. But you have to be willing to do those hard things. And guess what? The more that you do that, it's like running. The more that you do that, the more that you pick up the phone and say, hey, I sent you my portfolio, but I guess you get a lot of people. You're a great brand. I guess you get a lot of people contacting you. The more that you do that, and it's essentially cold calling, the better that you're going to get at it. And therefore, the more doors that are going to open for you. And guess what? Once you get one sponsor, all of a sudden it's very easy to get another. You know the process, you know the negotiation. What is it worth to you? In terms of, you need to kind of sit down and think of the figures. So if you have a full-time job at the moment and you're being paid $50,000 a year, how can you earn exactly the same amount? Or how can you reduce your lifestyle in order to get better at running, and reduce your cost of living in order to get to a point where you can make it work for yourself, so it's actually worth it being a runner? So you need to think about those things as well. Do what I did. For me, I wanted to be a runner if I was paid $1,000 a year. It didn't matter. The fact that I could say I'm a professional athlete meant so much to me, because that's what when teachers asked me as a child what I wanted to be, I always would say a footballer. My second was I want to be a runner. So the fact that I could say I did, and I'm doing what I did, what I wanted to do when I was a kid, was the most important thing to me. So I would have done that for $10,000 a year. And luckily, as you get better and better and better at running, and you get more exposure, and you certainly learn how to kind of hit a certain angle and appeal to a certain demographic, then it's easier to kind of gain more and more value on top of that. And you've got platforms now that make it so easy for you to do that. There's no excuses. If you need any help with it, let me know. And let me know if this is something that you really want to do. Let me know in the comments below. Like, what is your journey, and why do you think you should be sponsored, and what measures are you taking in order to try to make that reality?